Hello, everyone, and welcome to Midlife, the Search for Meaning in the Middle. I'm your host, Lisa Stedman, and with us today, we are joined by Jen Grisanti, one of the entertainment industry's top story consultants. And I was going to say for screenwriters, but you're beyond just screenwriting now. There's authors, there's all kinds of things, which is amazing. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing with this program.
Oh, thank you. So I want to share some fun facts about Jen up top because she has an incredible resume, and I'm just going to hit a few of the highlights. She landed her career-defining break at Spelling Television, working alongside industry powerhouse Aaron Spelling. I know everyone listening or watching this has watched a spelling show and loved it, been addicted, myself included. And her signature flagship 6-week teleseminar, I've taken it several times, is a must for writers of all levels who are really serious about a career in film, TV, and novels. And we're just going to toot her clients' horns because her screenwriting clients have gone on to write for TV shows like The Good Wife, NCIS, Sleepy Hollow, The Blacklist, Chicago Fire, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, among others. And 127 scripts have sold from the writers she's worked with. I mean, that's incredible.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. There's nothing I love more, as you and I were talking about before we jumped on, when you do work that you love and the
Yes.
joy is there. And I think part of my biggest why and motivator is to be able to help guide writers to the dream and then to celebrate when they get there. I think there's nothing better than when you see the writer realize and create longevity in their writing career.
I love that. And you do that so well. I always see your shout outs for your peeps. And even when we place in contests, like you really do, just like your love for this craft, your love and appreciation for writers shines through in everything you do.
Thank you.
I can't wait to get into this conversation. And of course, I first have to ask, what are you watching right now and loving?
So yeah, we finished a show called Blue Lights that is great. That's on
Oh,
Prime.
okay.
That
I'm writing
I've
it
really,
down.
yeah, Blue Lights. I've really been into. It's a British Irish show into like the police procedural that is goes deep into the characters and explores themes that are going on in the world. Like that really hits me. I
Yes.
also recently finished a show from one of our writers from Writers on the Verge, Michelle Giannusa, with Ripple. She has a series on Netflix. And part of what I love about this show is the heart and the simplicity. And I feel
Ooh.
like there's so much for writers to learn from recognizing the value of strong characters, strong heart, lots of emotion, and simple stories that make your audience tear up. And I find that Ripple really does this, and I love what she did with the show. And it was another thing for writers to be motivated by because it wasn't from IP, wasn't from intellectual property. She is a newer writer who show ran, and it was like a 8 to 10 year turnaround from when the script started. So it's a very
Wow.
inspirational story. So I would say Ripple, and then The Beast in Me and Black Rabbit. Those are the most recent
Ooh,
shows. Yeah.
Black Rabbit, I was obsessed with. I binged that
Hmm.
so hard. I
Yes.
was just
Wasn't
like,
that, was it?
give me more. It was so, I
Oh,
mean, I'm a huge Jason Bateman fan anyway, but the storytelling in that was incredible. Like, oh my God. And the backstory. And I know, and we're going to talk about trauma and flaws and wounds because you really encourage writers to explore all of that. And I thought they did a masterful job of exploring that in Black Rabbit
a
specifically.
100%. And I agree with you about Jason Bateman. I honestly, I love him and everything, but there was something about him in this show that was just extraordinary, like over the top. He was incredible. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, he's having a moment, and I've heard him in many interviews. Normally, I listen to his podcast, but I've been hearing him in interviews where he says he likes to be like the audience reactor on screen, but in this role, he wasn't doing. He was playing something so much darker and deeper and all the things, and he did it so masterfully. And no, he's not paying us any money to sing his praises. We just love him. So
Yes, exactly.
um, so you also gave me my holiday binging list because I haven't seen Blue Lights or Ripple, so thank you.
You got it.
Um, if you oh gosh, I know this is putting you on the spot, but if you had to pick a favorite best TV series of 2025, what would it be?
Oh, like hands down, there's like not even anything. Like I immediately went to season 3 of The Diplomat. For me, that was probably some of the best TV and writing and acting and directing ever done. I just thought it was brilliant. By
In
Deborah Kahn. Yes.
Oh, right? Like
Yeah.
Deborah Kahn can do no wrong.
Yes.
So I don't remember how many episodes there were in season 3, but season 2 was 6 episodes,
Yeah.
and they told a I was blown. I was like, "Oh my god, you told a complete story in 6 masterful episodes." I think this season might have been 8, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was
Um,
either 8 or 10. And so, but I remember like with the 6 episodes, people were upset though. People wanted more. And
oh
I
yeah.
even this season, I wanted more. I was like,
I
oh
know, like
my God.
that's a series where I'm like, could we have 24 episodes?
Yes,
Like, could you give us
exactly.
everything because it's so good and the
So
acting and
good.
the writing and all of it is just mastery.
It
Um,
is.
yeah. Okay. So we alluded to this already, but in your programs, you really help writers connect to their character and story, wounds, flaws, and trauma. And I'd love to hear from you why that's so essential in today's TV landscape specifically.
You know, I feel like we are in such a place in the world where meaning and depth and significance are what people need. We need to understand, why do people do what they do? What are people healing from? What makes a character human? Like what is, how do we see their humanity? And when we see the flaw, which I'm finding more and more shows and films are dealing with from literally scene number 1,
Right.
we, as soon as we feel the flaw, and I always have felt, taught my writers, the flaw is the story of the wound. So when you see the flaw, immediately makes you lean in, and it probably starts the whole dopamine thing if it's done right, and you are in. And you see someone who you identify with, you see a conflicted relationship, often a conflicted familial relationship, or you see a consequence where they're in dire straits, which makes you immediately lean in. And if you feel their flaw within that consequence, then again, it creates anticipation. It makes you want to know more. And that is everything.
Oh, that is everything. Because there is so much to watch, but you're so right. When you're watching a show, and I think, again, Black Rabbit did such a great job of this, like, you're immediately in on these characters because you feel them. Like, you see what's going on. You're like, I'm in. Like, I'm
Yes.
invested in their wounds and their flaws and their pain and their trauma and all of it because I can relate, even though that never happened to me, something similar, or just like you're feeling it. And whew, it's potent. It's actually it's magical. It's my favorite thing about writing is that discovery. Like I often say that like writing is not making it up, it's getting it down.
Yes. I
So it's this
agree. And
Yes.
it's allowing it to come through. Like when you look at Mayor of Easttown and Black Rabbit, and you see the value of characters who share a wound, because in when the wound is shared by multiple characters, the complexity and the mystery behind it carries even more weight, makes you want to understand more. And granted, you're more on board with the main worldview, it still is a way to unify your characters, and really make the audience bond with your pursuit and what you want to say thematically with the story.
Mm, this is so good. This is why you're such a good teacher, because I'm learning stuff even as we're just talking.
Thank you, Lisa.
So you're welcome. So, I've taken your programs. They are incredible. I've repeated some of them. Can you share with anyone who might be newer to your work, what they can expect from specifically taking your signature writing program?
Yes. So every year, what motivated me to do the program? I was the writing instructor for at NBC for Writers on the Verge for 13 years after I was a studio executive for 12 years. So what I did in creating the program, which is going to be the program's 18 years and went alongside when I was teaching at NBC, uh, is delivering the same type of education and information that a fellowship does to the top 8 people who are able to get in out of 3 or 4 thousand, and make it available so that everybody can get the benefit who's willing to commit to doing the work. So that's what motivated me to do the program. And every year it's different. Every year I choose a different angle based on the strongest current series. And the last few years, I've done television feature and novels. So I've been diving a lot deeper because the business is changing. And
Yeah.
so many writers who were only writing TV are now writing TV and features, or people who are writing features are starting to think about TV. And then you have everyone who's starting to see the value of, if they write the book first, then they own the intellectual property.
Yes.
And then what does it look like to adapt that into a series or a feature? So that
I
that is everything I've been focusing on.
I love that you've broadened it in that way, because I feel like as a writer, we're kind of in a hustle economy where it's not enough to do any one thing. So,
Mhm.
like, I've definitely done a lot more feature writing and made my first short film this year. And, yeah, thank you. I'm so excited. But it's really about looking at, what have I done? What's worked? What can I kind of parlay into another arena, that will make my portfolio even stronger, give me new connections, give me new life to the writing, and I think it's honestly where everybody's at, and I really encourage anyone who's watching or listening, if you feel like you're kind of stuck and you're like, I can't write another pilot, or I can't write another rom-com, or I can't write another XYZ, really invite yourself to get out of that lane that you're in and explore something new, because it will reinvigorate the writing.
And it gives you liberty. I mean, everything you just said, it it gives you liberty because each platform has a different emphasis. So, like, for
Yes.
example, if you are a very internal person and want to go into the internal story more than anything, then writing a novel is your answer. And then the idea of showing it externally and learning the value of showing versus telling, and understanding the balance of showing versus telling, and then moving into television, where you have to then also think about what is the engine of story that's going to generate one season or several seasons of interest. And how do you do that versus your beginning, middle, and end lead
Right.
feature, or as we'll go into later, the shorter looks at stories. So it's, I think the business is evolving, it's growing, the audience is evolving and growing, and I encourage writers to move with it. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. We're never going to go back. So
Yep.
it's all about
Exactly.
evolving with the times. And speaking of not going back, as we are in midlife on this podcast, ageism in the world in general, but also in the industry can be very real. What do you think the industry needs to know about the value of midlife and beyond writers, what we bring to the table?
I have always been a proponent of not just older writers, because I believe that the more we live, the more we have to say to the world, the more complex our lives get, the more healing we have to do,
Right.
and that deepens our voices. And so I have always been um I've always wanted at least a mixture in the room of people in different life phases in the writer's room, because I feel like you write what you are experiencing, and it is so important within the quadrant audience that we are hitting everyone, not only diversity wise, but also age being a part of that and life phase being a part of that. And so, I mean, when I was at when I was at CBS Paramount, I actually had a show where the average age was 55 and the showrunner
Wow.
was 73.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I look at the aging process and I think, all right, age is an obstacle if you allow it to be an obstacle. I believe that writing will speak loudly. So focus on what you can control, which is your writing, and
Yes.
focus on your life and living your life so that you have something to say that has depth and meaning. And then believe when you are
Mm.
putting it out there that it will find its place.
Now, if I wasn't worried about ruining my whole setup here, I literally have a whiteboard here. And this is a quote from Kevin Huvane, who said, tune out the noise, focus on the writing, believe in yourself. And then I
Oh,
can't
yes.
remember who said this, but I wrote this down like a couple of years later. You get what you claim.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I love this conversation.
Yes.
Um, it's so true. And just yeah, the work speaks for itself. And there's the hustle involved, and there's the putting yourself out there, and there is the get it out of your computer and into the world so people can actually see it. But yeah, I feel like I am of the camp, and in the welcome to midlife era, we are all choosing that age is real, but ageism is, to your point, a choice. And for those folks who choose to put that lens on us, we'll just go somewhere else, because there are plenty of people who want to hear what we have to say and understand and value the contributions that we still have to make. So I think it's an exciting time to be midlife, and I think there's a lot more celebration of it.
I agree. And I think like I remember when I was climbing the corporate ladder that I learned that every time I tried and I heard the word no, that no began to have no meaning to me other than try a different angle. It didn't
Yes.
have the weight that it once did. And so I think for every writer who gets in their mind and allows their mind to obscure and make them feel doubt when they go into a meeting so that people pick up on that, then that's when things don't go the way they're meant to go. And from a former studio executive perspective, I think every writer needs to understand that when you go into a meeting, We want the person you're meeting with want the meeting to work as much as you want the meeting to work. So
Yes.
I've seen writers come in and have more confidence that immediately makes me go, all right, is the writing in alignment with the confidence? And if even if it's not, the confidence is contagious. And you know, if the confidence is there, chances are with the right mentor, the writing is going to get there. And so,
Right.
you know, and that's the difference. Like confidence is everything.
I
So
love that.
I think like, and I do look at, I almost feel like midlife right now is a blessing in the writing process, not in a way that it used to be. I remember when when I was an executive, I remember that we went through a period where there was a controversy over a 26-year-old writer who lied about their age and wasn't
Oh,
really, yeah. And so, and it created this recognition of why are we connecting with youth and thinking that instead of going, all right, now there's a real original voice because of what that person has gone through in their life. That is
right.
where I do feel the industry goes wrong. And obviously, when we look at it, something like the King's Speech, where the writer is 73 years old, we see the value and the depth and significance and meaning when you have a writer who truly has something to say to the world and has the maturity to understand how to explore.
Oh, that's so beautifully said. I had a really lovely general meeting with a really lovely development executive. I think it was last week. And the best compliment he gave me was, you have to sell yourself. So I was telling my life story. And when I finished, he said, well, that's 3 shows right there. And I was like, oh, I did a good job. He
You
thinks
did.
he thinks
You
my life is
did.
interesting.
You knew your marketing points. And that, I mean, that's a great thing. When you go into a meeting, I always tell writers, you want to think of what are the 3 key points that you want to leave that meeting knowing that you shared
Right.
and understanding what those points are. And if they're your emotional beats in your story that make you want to write, then share those because that's
Right.
everything that the executive or the producer is trying to figure out. Do you have a well of story that is
Yes.
accessible?
And I think there's 2 other things here. One is, so I love that you said that the executive wants the meeting to go as well as you want it to go, because that you kinda define it then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I love about being midlife is I've managed household budgets and corporate budgets, so I'm walking into a meeting and I can confidently say I won't go over budget, Whereas in my 20s, I would have been like, "I don't know, maybe." I
Yeah,
can't even balance my
see?
checkbook.
But there is a beautiful point that you brought up that is the value of being the age you are and
Yeah,
understanding your personal value and what you're bringing to the creative process. That's everything. Because
it
again,
is.
just like that executive said what they said, you feel that in a room. You feel it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. So if we're looking, let's look in the rear view mirror for a minute, because
Okay.
we had a pandemic and then we had some strikes. And then I remember how hopeful I was on the first Monday of January. I was like, it's going to be a great year. And then Tuesday and the fires and people lost their homes and communities were devastated. And more recently, we've got these major billion-dollar mergers, or acquisitions, I should say, Paramount and Skydance and Warner, Discovery, Netflix. Uh, LA has been through a lot. People have been through a lot. I've been hearing it from everywhere. And what's interesting is I've run into more people in the last month than I did the rest of the year who lost their homes. And I'm like, am I seeing more people now, or are people just able to talk about it now? It's been interesting. But I'm curious from your perspective, which of these has had the most significant impact on the stories that the industry is telling?
Well, I do feel that like everything that you just mentioned, and then certainly when we look at all the climate situations that have led to the same devastation. Uh, I mean, obviously the fires were, oh well, some of them were not, but I think like
Yeah.
when you look at something where what does life look like when you're starting from scratch? What
Ooh,
what is important to you? And then you draw themes from that life experience. And then your tragedy turns into gold for everybody else because your insights on what you learned as a human being of your inner strength with how do I start from scratch and what does my path look like and how do I capture these emotions that I am going through, that the world is going through in different ways, and how do I put it into story? So for me,
right.
I feel like some of the themes that I am noticing are from people who've lost everything, from people who've dealt with shootings like the Bondi Beach one that we just had,
Sure.
like who your brain is trying to grasp and make sense of a loss that came so spontaneously
It's
out of
so
nowhere.
unfathomable. Yeah.
And how do you grasp that? Like how, and
Ooh,
then you add the holiday season to everything that we've gone through in Brown University and this and that. And it brings us into motivation. It brings us into humanity. It brings us into important themes like mental illness and
yes.
what is the exploration of that. So I look at tragedies and traumas. And I think that when it happens to you, and I know many people who lost their homes as well, and I speak from this because I have seen so much inner strength from friends who've gone through it. And I mean, like I remember there was a point earlier in my life when I had like 10 friends who went through breast cancer within
Oh,
a 4 year
wow.
time period. And I always remember them saying things like, I remember one friend saying, honestly, it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me because it woke me up to my life.
Ooh,
And there's gold. There's gold in that value, in that understanding, and the recognition that tomorrow is not guaranteed. All we have is the moment, and we have to be in it, and we have to capture these emotions that have meaning and pass them
wow.
forward. Yeah.
Ooh, woke me up to my life. I relate to that. I that resonates deeply even as you were just talking as you started to talk about how trauma informs us the path forward and the strength and resilience. I got this real emotional hit because I feel that,
Yeah.
collectively, but also I see how that has informed my work, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for that. Like, the things that are the hardest are the things that bring the most beautiful art out in the world.
Yeah.
And
You
so
are right.
yeah, I give thanks for that. Um,
Oh,
wow,
I love that that hit you because Lisa,
it
but that
did.
shows up in your writing. I mean, I know that.
Yeah.
I feel that in
Yeah.
your voice. And
Ooh,
I feel like the meaning, like what you're feeling right now, again, that's gold.
it
That's gold.
is.
And grabbing that and putting that on the page and sending that out in story in a beautiful transformational arc that the audience can feel, that's everything.
That's everything. It's so true. Yeah, yeah, my short is about AI and modern love, and I wrote it because I'm madly in love with a human, and that human is a pain in the ass, but he makes me better every day. Thank God. And if I had a yes man AI bot, it might be a nightmare.
Yes.
So
Yes, and the
vulnerability.
exploration of that is so real
Yeah.
because it's very real with what's going on currently in the world is
Well,
and
yeah.
very
One in four young
topical.
people are
Yep.
choosing AI for companionship because, well, I don't know their because. I
Yeah.
can assume things, but one of my big concerns about it is it feels safe
Yeah.
and you don't have to be vulnerable. And I
Mhm.
really understand that as someone who didn't want to be vulnerable. And I know the gift that vulnerability has given my life every single time I've been willing to be vulnerable.
Yes.
So, whew, such
But
an
I can
interesting
say,
place.
I mean, vulnerability. So, like, let's look at vulnerability and like midlife. I mean, like, when we look at
There's a lot of it.
vulnerability, oh, yeah. I mean, like, midlife and makes humility become like a master, like, companion in your life.
Oh,
And so, you
yes.
know, you have to. And I think dealing with that master companion and recognizing the value of humility and the value of vulnerability and knowing that like when you're deeply in love and I like you am also deeply in love and so when you are in love and you recognize when you break through the fear of vulnerability and you show up every day and you move
Yes.
beyond ever feeling like I cannot say to the recognition of if I say, the
Right.
opportunity for intimacy is even stronger than if I don't say.
Oh, okay, again, getting emotional. Love this. So one of the things, and we'll move on, but I just have to share this because I know you will deeply understand this. So I've been with my husband 20 years, and he's not in
Amazing.
the business, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I think for 20 years, I have thought I need to keep him separate from my art because my art he might not get it, or it might impact him in a negative way, like all these stories. And slowly in the last few years, I've let him in more and more and more. And to the point that on my short film, he's a techie nerd, but he is an amazing cook. So there's a dinner scene. And so I asked him to do the food styling for the movie. And I thought that meant he'd cook and bring it and leave. And the man was there for 2 days straight and did everything, like picked up every drop ball. And I was just, and we got closer and fell more in love. And I was like, why have I not let you do this before? You know?
That's a perfect example
Yeah.
of like our walls that we put up that
And the
prevent
stories we tell
intimacy.
ourselves.
Yes, and the stories are inner narratives that get in the way and the value of breaking through those. And it's the same
Yes.
thing with the characters. Helping them break through those inner narratives that are blocking them from true intimacy and true meaning.
Oh, it's everything. Oh, I love this conversation. I knew I would, Jen. This is amazing.
You're
Okay, so
fantastic.
thank you. So, vertical dramas are having a
Yes.
moment. Have you watched them? What do you think of this new medium? I will just say I started to watch them and felt very conflicted, and now I'm in. Now I'm
Okay.
in.
All
I'm
right.
embracing it. So I'm curious to get your perspective.
I love that. I believe that there's value in every type of storytelling. I do. I think that for me, in my experience of watching vertical dramas, that it feels like almost like an adrenaline hit versus a oh my God, I can't wait to get back and feel the emotion in that arc.
Mm,
And I think that like when I look at life phase, I certainly recognize people on TikTok and Instagram and the idea of people who want it quick. They want something in and out. They don't want it to go on forever. They're not interested in the rambling or the backstory very often, or the wound or the flaw. They just want to understand what is the story. I think that
Right.
there is a value for that, and clearly an audience. And for me personally, I tend to like very deep, dark, as well as simple and meaningful um, stories where I'm feeling the transformational arc. So the vertical drama is not the platform where I'm going to get that energy.
That is not what
However,
you'll get
quick
there, yeah.
fix. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting, though, what I found fascinating as I've really delved into this is that the core audience are midlife women.
Yeah. Oh,
I was
interesting.
fascinated by that. I
Yeah.
thought it would be younger folks who are used to just scrolling on their phones,
Yeah.
and so that's what got me curious. I was like, "Oh, so maybe there's some dreams deferred who are living vicariously through these very heightened worlds."
Yes.
Um, and, while I will never encourage a slap, there's a lot of slapping. Um, what I do find interesting is the redemption of the underdog. I think that's really what folks resonate with, at least the midlife audience.
Yes, I would agree. Like when you talk about it being big, it doesn't surprise me that it's big with the midlife audience. When we look at the life phase of midlife, with people dealing with empty nest, people dealing with divorce and betrayal very often, people dealing with waking up to the recognition that there's only a certain amount of time left
Yeah.
and they haven't gone after the dream. And I
Or
think
even
when,
like the sandwich generation of it all,
yes,
caring for an elderly parent, but also having a kid and feeling like there's no time for you. So you're 5 minutes in the bathtub or whatever.
exactly. Exactly. And I think like when you, again, like when you have this adrenaline rush in the idea of starting with the consequence, like when we look at the drama format, like Breaking Bad, starting with the consequence, that's what
Yes.
many of these vertical dramas are, dropping you into the consequence and then sometimes going back, or they're dropping you into the inciting incident and you're
Yes.
moving forward from that consequential moment where you immediately know what type of story it is and whether you're interested or not interested. And I think that, again, I think that there is from what we're looking at with audiences and looking at that. And I applaud the value, I think, for writers that's incredibly exciting. Especially,
Yeah.
I think, feel like writers who've ever written the soap opera or the Christmas movie or
Yes.
the telenovela, the romance novel. Like, I feel like those type of writers, like this is, again, this could be
It's
gold
a
for
natural
them
fit.
to jump
Yes.
in and move with the current on it.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
interesting. All right. So, segueing into the personal a little bit, do you
Yes.
have a distinct memory, moment, or milestone that made you realize you were officially midlife?
I gave a lot of thought to this and I love your question. I would say yes. I would say probably one of the biggest, and it was a very interesting moment. So, part of my brand is adding fiction to your emotional truth and helping writers dig out what are those emotional truths. And I share two very big emotional truths of mine. And one of them was when a career ended after 12 years and my contract wasn't picked up on the heels of a situation, and how I responded to that. And like when I
Mm,
look at that, I was 40 at that point. So when I look
right.
at that point in life and I recognize that I was the oldest in that department, and my new boss, not the one who had hired me, but my new boss was 5 years younger, that and I began to really feel my age, because it was like, obvious the age had nothing to do with anything, but it was in my mind that those were the dynamics that were going on. And you always know when somebody new comes in, chances are they're going to want to bring in their own people. And that's just the
Right.
state of the business. And how you respond to that is everything. But the interesting thing is, then when I started my own business as an entrepreneur and I wrote 3 entertainment books, I went from feeling like I was the oldest at the studio to being one of the youngest authors writing entertainment books. So there was kind of a just like an awareness, but
Yes.
also, also a recognition of that's okay. Like,
Part of the
jobs come
journey.
in. Yeah, it is. Like every job, the majority of jobs, especially in entertainment, as we're seeing. I mean, I certainly know when I defined my new path, it was that trauma was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And helping other executives who are going through that same type of trauma, or anyone who's going
Right.
through that type of trauma, is to recognize that you always have two choices when trauma or you feel like you're going through a fall hits. You can rise above the fall and do the inner work to heal and then let it propel you forward, or you can remain stuck in the fall. There's always those choices. And
Right.
I see that in story and in life. I see the people who
Yep.
fall victim to the fall
Yeah.
and never move forward, versus the people who fall and then find the emotional truth in the fall, take accountability in their part of the fall, write about it, and then move forward and share their story. And there's nothing greater than when you do that. Then it's like the world opens up and suddenly people see you and you see them.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes, you create agency for yourself, and that really shifts what you attract because you're showing up differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Oh, I love that. All right. So,
Yeah.
what is one of your success tools for navigating midlife with more ease and grace? I know you've got several because you've talked about some of them in the past.
It is so funny. Like there are so many. Yes. I mean, certainly, I think here's what I can say for women. Like when you notice things, as we talked about with humility, like when the body shifts and changes, I think it's like, it's recognizing it's all okay, because I always look at life and think, I get to show up every day. And what a
Yes.
beautiful thing that is. And whether there's an insecurity about something changing, then it's owning that change, taking action to make an adjustment to that change. I honestly think what happens in midlife to our bodies is our wake up call to aging gracefully and making changes in our diet, in our workout program, in our life, so that we are bringing optimistic energy in and we are taking action so that we're not suppressing stuff and keeping energy in the body that creates illness. But
Right.
instead, we're taking action steps to age gracefully. And so I think that would be one thing. And then I think another thing is always recognizing. I remember recently I saw on Substack a young woman, 37 years old, put something on about she's 37. She has this great profession, but she's single, and all everybody asks her is, when are you going to get married, this and that. And it made her feel less than. And I
Right.
said, we are all on our own paths, and some of our paths are a certain way with the white picket fence and the marriage and the kids, and some of our paths are different. And I shared with her what my path was, and how after a divorce early on, I married my job and went through 16 years before I met the love of my life. And how the value of that was I got to get my career in place so that when love entered again, I was in a place where I could truly see it and be in it and value it in the
And be
way that I
available
needed
for
to.
it.
And be available for it. So it's like
Yeah.
you are exactly where you are supposed to be. For me, is probably the biggest tool in life, not even just midlife. Just,
That's it's so beautiful, and it reminds me of what you said just a few minutes ago about the choice to stay stuck or move forward. It's the same with when we get those body wake-up calls, those humbling moments in the mirror,
yeah,
whatever it is for us, whether it's menopause, perimenopause, whatever.
yep.
There is a choice to bury the head in the sand and go, "It's fine," or to say, "What do I need to do differently?" And so I love how you talked about it because I too radically shifted how I fed myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for how I feed myself now because I'm sure other people would be like, "Ooh, that looks gross," or like a salad again, or like, what are you putting in that smoothie?" But it's things that actually make me feel good.
And it's like, but we need age and maturity to understand that because I did the
Yes.
same thing. We stopped drinking last year. You know, I had to have my
Wow.
gallbladder taken out, and there was like just this recognition of we both wanted to move into a healthier direction
Yes.
and listening to those prompts. And like when you do things like eat healthier and recognize the value of that to this body that is only has a certain amount of years before things start really changing is a
Yeah.
gift. It's a gift, these things that happen.
Oh, it's a gift and an opportunity every day to tune in or check out.
Yeah. Yep. You're
Okay,
right.
last question. Any advice for someone waking up, realizing their midlife, they still haven't told the stories they feel deeply called to share? What's your advice for them?
I it's never too late, number one. It is never, never, never too late. And if there is a story that wakes you up at night, there is something in your unconscious that is ready to be birthed. And to trust and believe and follow that story is what could change your life in a whole new direction. So never feel that, and I mean, I'm going to tell you as an executive, probably former executive, my favorite writers to help guide into creating longevity were writers who had careers in a whole different industry
Yes.
and then change midlife
Yes.
and know what it is to succeed, to sometimes fail, and to have something to say to the world. So that is the value of midlife, is recognizing there's still so much time. And so why not put that time to good energy and allow that story to come through you? I always have an exercise with myself whenever I have to write content. I think of themes that are coming through me in meditation and I
Mm,
capture them and I start like branches. And then I start thinking about like what's coming through me, what do I want to say with this, and how do I thread this together and find the meaning behind what was coming through me.
oh, I love that. I do a very similar process, like and
Yeah.
for me, my ideas come when I'm on my hikes. They just start flowing through me and I'm like,
Yep.
"Oh, is that okay? Okay, let me," and so I'll always have my phone to like record a voice memo,
Yes.
um, because I don't want to forget, but I feel like it's like little gifts from the trees and from nature and from tuning out noise. Oh my gosh. I could
Yes.
talk to you forever. This is
Oh, you
amazing.
too, Lisa. I think you are fabulous. Thank you so much. I love your questions. I love what you're doing. I've always loved your voice. I've always
Thank
believed in your
you.
voice. So fabulous. This is just incredible. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I appreciate that.
You
And
bet.
so for anyone who wants to learn more about you and your work, where can they go?
They can go to my website, which is jengrisanti.com. My email is jen@jengrisanti.com. So, all very easy and simple to the point. I would love to be a part of anyone's journey who feels that they have a story that's coming through them. I would love to help them move beyond the fear to tell and sell their story.
Oh, and you're so masterful at that, and I will reflect back to you. Thank you for what you reflected to me. I remember one of the first times we interacted was at an event, and I got up to ask a question, and I remember you said to me, you looked at me and you said, "I can tell you're a writer and a storyteller because of what you just said." And I was like, "Oh, somebody acknowledge," like, and I knew that myself, but to be acknowledged, that was so beautiful. So thank you for that, and thank you
But
for
that's everything, Lisa, and that's reflective of you because that's so
thank
true.
you.
I think like
Yeah.
the way you tell story is what people see and hear, and they can immediately go, "There's a writer."
Yes, I so get that. So if anyone's feeling called, please check out Jen online. She's available everywhere she already shared. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in Midlife. This is a continuing conversation, so to be continued. And in the meantime, I hope everyone has a lovely time with their midlife journey.